Dave.
Oh,
I guess that makes sense. He was from the East Coast. He had Ricky from Trailer Park Boys in his
we're going to
movie.
find out. We're going to ask him everything. We are going to pick your brains.
Awesome. You guys are going to go to the mic's okay? Cool.
All right.
Let's go. I'll see you again, bud. You too.
Have a seat. All right, as previously said, I'm the Gourmet from Rue Morgue magazine. This is the Hobos, Shotguns, and Grindhouse Insanity panel discussion with my special guest, Jason Eisner, director of Hobos Shotgun.
This is good. It's going to be a little more intimate. We can open it up to anything.
Yep. Okay, so every story has a beginning. I want to hear the beginning of yours. What inspired you to become a filmmaker?
Well, I remember when we were growing up, me and my best friend John Davies, who wrote Hobo with a Shotgun, we've known each other since we were 5. We've gone through like elementary, junior high, and high school, and college together, and still hang out every day. But we used to take over my parents' back shed, and we basically built a couple bunks in there, put in a TV and a VCR, and we would just spend our summers in my parents' back shed. And we would go down to the local video store, which had this deal on every summer called the 5 for 5 for 5, where you could rent 5 movies for $5 for 5 days. And so we, I remember in the summer, just cleared out. They had an amazing horror and sci-fi action section, and we just cleared it out within one summer. And so that summer was very inspirational, because we were just starting to, I think it was in grade 9, and we were just starting to pick up a camera and started shooting things. And so when we got into high school, we tried to make an excuse for every project to film something. Whether it was a math assignment or something in history or geography, we always tried to turn it into a film project. And the school recognized this interest in making movies. Kids were interested in making movies at the high school, so they made this film and video program, and we were able to go into it when we got into grade 12. And we just spent every off class, every lunch hour, every day after school in this film class, and learned how to edit. We went from editing from 2 VCRs to having iMovie. I remember that being this huge breakthrough for us. And I remember seeing Evil Dead 2 and Return of the Living Dead for the first time when I was in I think it was in grade 10. And it just blew my mind. I remember seeing how Sam Raimi moved the camera in Evil Dead 2, and I'd never seen anything like it. And I thought, if there was a way that people can do something like that for a living, then that's what I want to do. And so we spent instead of going to parties or doing anything else that normal, I guess, high school students would do, we just spent every day after school and every weekend just making movies with our friends.
So up to the point where you submitted the trailer, had you done anything professional to that point? No, we hadn't. We made lots of short films, and we went to a community college where we learned how to use the gear. Basically, it was a 2-year program where we learned how to use cameras, learned how to mix sound, how to edit, how to light. And then once we got out of that program, we just kept shooting. And then that contest came around, and we thought, I remember they announced the Grindhouse competition on Ain't It Cool News, and John called me up and was just there's this contest, have you seen it? So I looked it up, and it said you only had 2 weeks to shoot it, edit it, and then get it sent in. And so we started filming that night that we heard about the contest. And even though we didn't use any footage from that first night, it just got the ball rolling. And so we didn't really know what would come out of it. We had an awesome time making that trailer, but and we hoped that we could win. But when I started seeing other trailers that people were making from around the world, I just thought there was no way in hell we were going to win. So you were surprised?
Yeah.
Cool. And by the way, anytime anybody wants to jump in and ask a question,
yeah, sure.
please raise your hand and you're in.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Because you won that competition, were you able to meet Quentin Tarantino and Robert?
Yeah, I met Robert at like what they had. It was at South by Southwest where they had the contest, and so they had this Grindhouse panel with Rob Rodriguez and Harry Knowles, and they were going to talk about the Grindhouse project, and he's going to show some clips, and that's where they picked like the top 3 trailers, and they played all 3 of them, and then Rodriguez announced what the winner was, and so I had to, when they announced my name, I had to go up and sit on a panel with them, and we talked for a while, and then after the contest we were invited to go to Troublemaker Studios, and we hung out there for a bit, and then we were also invited to go to the actual Grindhouse premiere in LA, where I got to meet a bunch of filmmakers, and we stayed actually at Stuart Gordon's house, which was like pretty interesting. My producer was an AD on a film that Stuart did in New Brunswick back home called Stuck, and when he heard that we were going to LA, he was like, "You have to stay at my place." So we stayed with Stuart, and we took him to the Grindhouse premiere and to the party, and he introduced me to Quentin, which was cool.
Cool.
Now, did they have anything to do with getting Hobo into production, or that was all?
No, not at all. No, it definitely like helped that like there was awareness on the project, and that they picked our trailer as like the top trailer, but we never spoke with them or tried to approach them about trying to get them to help us make the movie. I know when we finished the movie, there was talk of like trying to get Tarantino to approach him to see if we could put his name as like a Tarantino Presents. But I didn't want to do it. I know like when those guys like made their first films like Reservoir Dogs and now Mariachi, they didn't have like another filmmaker like presenting the movie, and I wanted to just do it our way and prove ourselves on our own, and hopefully hear what they thought of the movie afterwards.
Okay, so you come back, you've won the trailer contest.
Yeah.
You're all happy, and you're thinking what your next move is. Was your immediate thought that you were gonna try and get a feature out of this?
Yeah, we thought that we were just gonna shoot a feature like on the weekends, like with our friends, and use the guy who played the original Hobo. But what happened was when I was in LA for the Grindhouse premiere, me and Rob, my producer, we decided to go to Universal Studios, and Rob had never been there before, and so we're walking to like the front gate, and I get this call from Toronto. I pick it up, and it's a guy from Alliance, and he talked about how much he loved the trailer, and that they wanted to take our trailer, which we shot for like $120 on mini DV, and they wanted to blow it up to like 235 millimeter prints and attach our trailer to the actual release of the Canadian release of Grindhouse. And I just never even heard. I thought like this was a prank being like pulled on me, because I just never even heard of something like that happening before, and then they also mentioned like we really want to talk about the idea of making it into a feature film. We want to bring it up to Toronto and introduce you to a producer. And so they brought me up and introduced me to this producer from here by the name of Neve Fishman from Ramos Media, and we just hit it off. And he sent us home to basically bang out a treatment, and which we did very quickly. Sent it off to him, and then the next step was get a script, and we wrote so many drafts of the script, and we spent a lot of time trying to raise the money to make the film. Where we had a pretty crazy script. Like it was, like if you read the whole script and you didn't really understand the kind of work we do, you would think it was probably very mean-spirited and just like, too crazy. So we had a lot of doors closed on us. So we thought we got to do something. We got to do something to let people know like what our style of filmmaking is, because our Hobo trailer was just 2 minutes. It didn't really like tell you what the story was. It was just this like flash of what could come, and so we thought we got to make a short. So we made this short film called Treevenge, which was like a 15-minute short film about Christmas trees.
Has anybody seen Treevenge?
You can see it online. It's like a 15-minute short about Christmas trees getting their revenge on humans.
It's hilarious. And it's really cool.
It's pretty nuts, yeah. But that really helped us. Like, and it played at Sundance, and it was like nominated for Best Short Film, and that really helped us to get our foot in the door and show financial backers like what our style was, so that they could see the short film and then dive into our script, and they knew how we were going to handle violence. And there's violence towards children in the films, and And you know, just reading that off the page just seems so crazy, but then when you see like how we actually handle it, it comes off a little easier, I guess.
Sorry, just a side note, where the hell is it? I bought this today.
Oh yeah, I love that film.
Who can kill a child? You can kill a child.
Yeah, that's an
You
amazing
slaughtered
film.
tons of them.
And they do in that film too. Oh man, that scene at the end where like, have you guys seen Who Can Kill a Child? Anyone seen that movie? Oh man, it's so nuts. It's basically about like this couple who go to an island and there are no adults except for children. And the
Yeah,
children have,
she's
like,
pregnant.
Yeah, and the children have killed all the adults and they're out to get these people. And there's this scene where they're running to this boat and he picks up a machine gun and he starts mowing down like 50 kids, and the kids are all jumping on. He's trying to get into a raft boat, and the kids are all jumping on him, and he's just taking a paddle, like full on swinging these kids in the head. It's amazing.
No, it is an awesome movie. I wrote it up for Rue Morgue, like when the DVD came out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Dave confiscated it, so I saw it on the shelf. I'm like, shit, I don't have this.
Yes.
I gotta pick this up. Okay, sorry, yes.
Just on the whole lines of killing people, I'm actually curious how you came up with some of the killing scenes in your movie. Like, where did that genius come from? Especially like the sewer one where you have Ricky.
Okay, yeah. Well, that sewer gag, I guess, you know, growing up watching lots of genre movies, like, you know, you dream about like, okay, when you're gonna have the opportunity to make your movie, you know, and you really want to deliver on the kills. So like, we've been thinking about things for like, you know, quite a while. But that manhole cover, there's a scene in Hobo where they put a manhole cover that's split in half with a hole in the middle of it, so it can basically be lashed onto someone's head. And they take out a manhole cover in the ground and basically place this person over it, drop them in so their heads is sticking above ground. But I thought of Hobo as like, it's very much like a Western for me, and Rutger always called it a graffiti Western, which I thought was kind of cool. And so when I was trying to come up with an idea for the opening, I was looking at old Westerns, like Django and Menage, and there's and even like a thriller, They Call Her One Eye. It's not so much a Western, but there's this great scene where it's this prostitute who basically takes her pimp and buries him up to his neck in the dirt, and then ties a noose around his neck and attaches it to a horse, and then puts a bucket of water in front of the horse, so the horse is just constantly trying to move forward, and eventually takes off his head. And so that kind of spiraled this idea of like, okay, let's get like a barbed wire noose and attach it to a truck, and the guy's gonna like pull back and just rip this guy's head off, and then blood's gonna fly out. And I can't remember how like basically the head comes off and there's like a big huge fountain of blood that comes flying, and this like chick with a bikini on comes out and she starts dancing in the blood like a sprinkler.
She's hot.
And that was really cool because like I didn't meet her until like we got to set like that day, and I knew I wanted her to dance in the blood, and we only had like one take to do it. And I was like, so what are you gonna do for the dance? And she's just like, you just roll the camera and I'll show you. I was like, okay, all right. And we rolled, like we had our one take, and she came out and she did that dance in the blood, and it was amazing. And Kareem Hussein, who shot it, such a crazy man. He's basically like making love to her with a camera. Like if you watch that scene, he's like pushing the camera like closer to her, and like blood's just all over the camera, all over Kareem and all over her, and it was just like a great moment between. I think it was like Kareem's dream come true, basically.
Yeah, well, you were saying the opening and the spaghetti Western aspect to it. I love the opening credit sequence because the music is like half Stelvio, Cipriani, half Ennio Morricone.
Yeah.
It's got that spaghetti Western feel. You've got that early 70s types and everything. That was all intentional.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wanted to open the film up like it, I don't know, that it just felt like you were instantly put into this world. Like, I feel like that opening credit sequence is kind of like we're opening up in the 70s, and then once Rutger gets into the world, it kind of gets more like
the 80s.
80s. Yeah. And so it's like there could be that hobo with a shotgun like, and there were versions of the script that was more like in that 70s world, but then when we got like Rutger, like it just felt natural to just go in that like 80s route. But I wanted to like just kind of open it up in this like beautiful sort of like, kind of like a spaghetti western opening. And the song we use is by Michael Combray, who did, the actual track is from Mark of the Devil. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Udo Kier.
Yeah, Udo is amazing, that film.
Yeah, I saw it at the Toronto Fantasia Fest, the first one they had. I remember because it was way too loud. It was definitely loud.
Yeah.
But it was great. Brent?
Yeah. How did you get around the cast of Rutger? Did you have any other choices for it before?
Yeah, I did. Oh man. Originally, we were looking at Nick Nolte to be the hobo. And this is interesting. I've never actually told this story before. But I don't think he'll mind. He's just nominated for an Oscar, so he's all good. I actually, like, I put up Rutger's name, like, well, first, my very first choice when thinking low-budget Canadian movie, I was like thinking my favorite Canadian actor is Steve McCaddy, who starred in Pontypool, and I thought that would have been more of the 70s, like, hobo movie with someone like Steve McCaddy. And I love his work, and I thought it was perfect, but our distributor was like, that's great, but, we haven't tried reaching out to anyone yet, so why don't you just write a list of, like, your favorite actors? And so I put Rutger Hauer, like, on the top of the list, thinking, there's no way in hell that's ever going to happen. And I put, like, Nick Nolte on there, thinking, there's no way that's going to happen either, and I'll just get down to Steve McCaddy after all these people deny me, and I'll get it the way I want. And so they were like, Rutger Hauer, he's too on the nose, like, let's go for Nick Nolte. And I was like, all right, cool. And so they set up this meeting. I got this call one day, and they're like, can you go to LA tomorrow and meet Nick Nolte? And I was like, yeah, sure, And so, like, I get there, and it's like, they're like, you got to, they're like, okay, so you're going to go to Nick Nolte's house. He's going to leave, like, the front gate open, and you're just going to go search his backyard for him. I was like, okay, I'm down for that. That sounds like a crazy adventure. And the meeting just kept getting put off, and we had to, like, reschedule a flight, and eventually it was just like, we could just not get a hold of him. And I went all the way to LA and to try and have a meeting with him, and he just, I don't know, couldn't pull it together to meet up with me. So it didn't happen, and thankfully. And then I went back and I said, what about Rutger Hauer? And they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Why didn't you say that before? And I was like, I have. You're perfect. And so they asked him, and they got on hold of his agent, and his agent read the script and then told Rutger, there's these crazy kids in Canada who want to make this movie with you, but it's not right for you at all. You're not gonna like the script. And Rutger, like, when someone tells him that he's not gonna like something, that, like, really piques his interest. He wants to know why someone would think he wouldn't like something. So he read the script and he was like, what the fuck? And he was like, I want to talk to the director about this. And so this was like 2 weeks before going into filming, I think. Yeah, it was like around 2 weeks. And so if I did not get him to get on board, we were going to have to push shooting. And we had already pushed shooting a bunch of times, and it felt like we were on our last straw. That, like, if I didn't get Rutger Hauer to say yes, then we were not going to make the movie. And so they were like, he wants to get on Skype with you, and I was like, what the hell is Skype? Like, I had no idea what it was. And so I remember that day I was so nervous, because Rutger Hauer is he's my favorite actor. Growing up, watching movies, the first time me and John discovered an actor that we wanted to track down everything they've done was Rutger Hauer. And I think we saw him in The Hitcher of the Blood of the Heroes for the first time, and we were just like, we've got to see everything. There's like this amazing charisma about this guy. And so I remember that day getting on Skype with him and being I couldn't sleep the night before, I couldn't eat my lunch. I was so nervous I was going to meet, I'm going to talk face to face with one of my childhood heroes who's worked with some of my favorite filmmakers. And I just felt like I was going to be like a chump to this guy, some kid, so inexperienced. And we got on Skype, and there he is, and he's like, he's kind of like sitting back with a cigarette, and he's just kind of like looking at me. And I'm like trying to figure out Skype, and I'm like, oh my God, like freaking out. And I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna look into the camera. I'm just gonna I'm not gonna pay attention to the screen. I'm just gonna look at the camera and let him see me, like, you know, let him look into my eyes and know, you know, that he'll be in good hands. And so we talked about the movie for maybe 15 minutes, told him what I wanted to do with the character, and he was really into that. And I also knew he was really into, like, he was an ocean conservationist. And when I was a kid, before I wanted to be a filmmaker, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And so I started talking to him about the ocean, and we just like hit it off, and we talked for like an hour about like a bunch of things about our lives, and by the end of the conversation, he went like, well, it was like from like, I think like 20 minutes into the conversation, he went from like this to like right up into the camera, like he was so engaged in it, and we just hit it off. By the end of the conversation, I was just like, you know, it's so great talking to you, and he was so excited, and it was like, you know, we'll talk to you later, and he's like, yeah, see you later, and then it stopped, and Kareem and Rob were standing upstairs listening to the conversation. They came running down, they were like, so did he say yes? And I was like, I don't know, I didn't even ask him. And they're like, oh my God. And so eventually he called like the offices like a little bit later, and was just like, I'm totally down to do it. But he told me later, I think it was after we were done shooting the movie, that he went into that Skype call to respectfully tell me that he was going to decline on the movie. And then it wasn't until he saw that, like, you know, there was a connection between us that he decided he wanted to do it. But that was pretty crazy.
I don't think I can think of anybody who was more perfect for the role.
Yeah.
Because he plays it 100% dead straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just...
Yeah, that was always the thing, was that, like, we wanted the world to be like this crazy circus. Like, for me, it's like, the movie is like about a bear like trapped in a zoo. And Rutger just really got that, and he just really understood that that character needed to be honest and true. Because if he was like in on the whole craziness of like the world, the movie just, I think, would have just been really like annoying to watch. Like, it's because of him, like, that he plays that performance like so straight and true to the character that it really works.
The moral and emotional center of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also completely love Brian Downey's performance as Drake. He was awesome. Where'd you get him from?
Well, Brian Downey, he started in this local TV show from back in the day called Lex. I don't know if anyone here knows of that show, but yeah. And Lex, I think, was even the first issue subject of Rue Morgue, which is pretty cool. And so I knew of Brian Downey. I knew of his work. I originally was going after Jake the Snake Roberts to play the Drake. I was really interested in having him play it, and I still want to work with Jake so bad. But I got this audition tape from Brian Downey that was so creepy, and he did something with that character that like I wasn't expecting. And like at the end of his audition tape, he just like looked into the camera and he started laughing at it, like at me. Like I felt like he did it just to like get at me, like. And I loved it. And I was like, that's the Drake. Like, he took what was in the script and made this character of his own. And I just, once I saw that audition tape, I knew he was perfect for it.
Yeah, and also you had Gregory and Nick as Slick and Ivan. To me, they're like the photo negatives of Tom Cruise and Risky Business. Was I supposed to see them that way?
I don't know. For me, like, it's a bit.
They've got the glasses.
Oh, I know.
The hair.
And I've done so many Q&As where people are like, "That's, you know, you must have been totally inspired by Risky Business," and I'd never even seen the movie until like it was after I was doing all these screenings and doing panels and Q&As and people asking me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home and watch Risky Business, and then I picked up the DVD, and it even had like a shot that looks like exactly like from Hobo with like Tom Cruise with his glasses down, like kind of smiling. And so I tried watching the movie. I think I got like 45 minutes into it, and then I fell asleep. But for me, they were kind of like.
Well, you should all get to the part where he bangs Rebecca De Mornay in the subway.
Yes. But I guess like for me, those guys were kind of like my version of like a Marty McFly, like an evil Marty McFly mixed with like Captain N from. He was like a Nintendo character from like 80s cartoons. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
kind of like
how did you get
that.
those guys in? Because they're just so over the top evil. Like they're
Yeah, well, it's like Gregory Smith who plays Slick. I met him when we had our short film Tree Bench play at Sundance, and he had a place in Utah, and he heard that we were coming up. He was friends with my producer, and he was just so awesome. Like he was just like an awesome guy to hang out with. He was so generous and just so fun to hang out with, and I started thinking about him as a character. I'd never seen him play anything like the character Slick. Like Greg's been on he's been in 17 magazine and stuff. Like his audience is totally different. But I asked him about it if he was interested in trying a role like this, and he's just like, hell yeah. I was like, you realize all those girls who have pictures of you on their wall, after they see this, they're gonna rip them down. And he's like, yeah, but the cool ones are gonna keep them up. and he was incredible to work with. He's so awesome. And then Nick, who played Ivan, that was his first time acting in a film. We casted him to play Rip, one of the two bounty hunters in the movie, the two robot-looking characters that kind of enter the movie halfway through. And because he's the world bow staff champion, 4-time world champion. When you see Nick Bateman with a bow staff, it's unreal. And so
it's no Star Wars, kid.
it's pretty amazing, yeah. And so I casted him as Rip, one of the Plague, and then we were looking for someone to play Ivan, and he just went out and made this audition tape of himself in Toronto, wearing hockey skates, running around alleyways, screaming, throwing kicks, and I was just again, it was someone who just took what was in our script and he made it his own character, and I saw the character in this audition tape he made, and I was like, let's have him play both characters. So
and that the mortal line, it's a nice day for a skate rig.
Yeah, that came
was
from
an
him.
improv, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we were. There's this line where he's walking with hockey skates on, approaching.
He's marching.
Yeah, he's marching
he followed his
towards
ass
this.
trying to do that?
No,
he works like that on skates.
He practiced a lot. And so we were I went to John, the writer, and I was just I think we need the best line in the movie right here. And we're 5 minutes away from shooting. So we at times like that, we just ask everyone on the crew, anyone, any cast members, anyone who could come up with an awesome line right here, bring it on. And Nick just spoke up and he was just how about it's a beautiful day for a skate rape? And I was just that's fucking hilarious, man. Go for it.
That's an awesome scene because that's not the only time the skates come in. Thank you for what you did to George Stroumboulopoulos.
He loved that. He was so excited.
Yeah, how did you get him into it?
George is awesome. He sat on a plane next to my producer once. It was a year before shooting the movie. They got to talking, and he was telling him about this Hobo with a Shotgun movie he was looking to do. And so he actually pulled out Treevenge on his laptop and showed Strombo on the flight, and Strombo loved it. He thought it was awesome. And he's just I want to be a part of what you guys are doing. Let me know, when you guys are, if you want me to do anything. And so I cast him to be this reporter in Hobo, and he flew himself down, and he stayed for a couple days, and he was he wanted to he was just trying to help out as much as possible. He was getting all bloody, working with blood rigs and stuff. He just wanted to be a part of the process, and he was just so awesome to work with. He it was his dream to die in a movie, and so we were able to fulfill his dream.
So you killed him with a skate.
Yeah.
That was very inspired. Now I wanted to ask you about some of the influences. See there, because the scene in Drake's Arcade, that was so trauma. When the head gets squashed between the two bumper cars.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking as I'm watching Hobo, the two biggest influences I can pick out were the Toxic Avenger and Street Trash.
Yeah. Yeah. I love both those films so much. I think Street Trash probably had more of an influence than Toxic Avenger.
With the colors too.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got that weird color palette, that sort of blue orange.
Yeah, I love I'm a kid of the '80s, so I grew up on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Brave Star, Voltron, and that was such a crazy, colorful, high concept world that we grew up in the '80s, and so that's where all my inspiration comes from. It was just my youth, and so I remember I even had a poster for Brave Star in the office we were working in. It had all these purples and yellows and neon pinks, and it was just this constant reminder of kind of like what the look of the movie was. But also like Dead End Drive-In, Brian Trenchard Smith, who's from Australia. Dead End Drive-In is one of my favorite films, and that's like the world of Dead End Drive-In almost like kind of feels like the world that we put Hobo in. Has anyone seen Dead End Drive-In? Cool, yeah, that's an amazing movie. It's basically like about like society puts like, you know, what they consider to be like, you know, the scum of the city, like they lure them to this drive-in movie theater where they're playing crazy exploitation movies, and it's mostly like punks that are staying there, but they can't leave. Once you go, you can't leave, and so it's kind of society's way of kind of putting the people who won't, you know, conform to society in this little place. But there's this one kid who like goes to the movie theater with his girlfriend, and then he's not allowed to leave, and so he's trying to escape. He's trying to come up with all these ways to get out of there, which I couldn't really relate to because they were just, this place was awesome. It was filled with punks, and they were playing like wicked exploitation movies. That's where I want to go when I die. But I actually made like this like inspired reel. I felt like, because back home in Nova Scotia, we don't really make genre movies too often, and so I felt like I needed a way to get my crew like all up to speed, and so I made this like 12-minute reel filled with like everything that was inspiring the movie, and then we put it on DVD and gave it to all the crew so they could get, you know, a quick crash course into like the exploitation world we were diving into. And so there were definitely clips from Street Trash. There's clips from this amazing '70s movie called Vice Squad. Wings Hauer plays the best villain I've ever seen, the most terrifying villain I've ever seen in a film. The Warriors, which is like my favorite movie of all time. There were like, what else was in there? There was clips from like Vigilante, Fight for Your Life, which is, has anyone ever seen Fight for Your Life?
Oh yeah.
Holy shit, that's like, probably, that's in my top like 5 like exploitation movies. That movie is so nuts. It's pretty crazy.
Yes. I would highly recommend it too.
Yeah.
Okay, and you made your Hitchcockian cameo. Actually, I thought you were in it twice.
Yeah.
Because you're at the part where you're pushing the shopping cart full of cans and you get tackled. But I also thought you were the human pinata. It wasn't until I watched the extras to see that it was somebody else, because it looks like you. That was brilliant when life gives you razor blades. You get a baseball bat with razor blades.
Yeah, it was funny. Like we were shooting one night. It was like 2 a.m, and like we just had a very limited crew. By that point, everyone went home, and there were no extras left. And there's this moment where there's like a homeless guy like walking across the street, drinking a bottle of liquor, and these punks kind of terrorize him. And we were like, "Oh, we need someone who looks like a hobo," and everyone just kind of like looked over. All right, I'll do it.
Well, so you didn't write yourself in attention.
No. It was just kind of spare of the moment. It's just like, I'm like, you can see I'm just like wearing like the clothes I was wearing on the day.
That's cool. Now the J&B Scotch bottle.
Yeah.
That had me giggling through the whole thing because it kept coming back. Obviously, you know that.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Italian movies in the 70s, J&B would give them cases of scotch for product placement. So any Italian movie you watch from the 70s, you will see models of J&B in the background somewhere. Everybody drinking in the movies, drinking J&B. That was an intentional.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like that came mostly from Kareem Hussein, or DOP, because well, one, he just loves drinking J&B, but he also, you know, he loves that history with it. And so he's tried, like, he even tried with Hobo to like get them to, you know, allow us to put the J&B bottle in the movie, and they wouldn't do it. They're not really into that anymore, which kind of sucks because that was really cool that they used to do that. So my brother kind of redid the label to say B&J.
No, because it looks exactly.
Yeah, it's like the same thing.
You can't tell because I don't give it.
Yeah, but it's in there like a bunch of times. Like anytime a glass gets smashed.
When Hobo goes to Abby's apartment for the first time, I could really use a drink. That's when I first saw it, and I went, But then the scene where he's with the guy, the bum fights guy.
Yep.
Which I took as a reference to RoboCop, actually.
Oh, cool. It wasn't.
It wasn't.
Not really. Although RoboCop is definitely like you know,
Because
influence, but-
RoboCop had all that future-centric stuff,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of CNN type stuff that's actually...
Yeah. For me, that was just kind of like
True.
based off of like, you know, like the bump fights that are going on, and you know that shit like really pisses me off. And I think I saw a clip where some filmmaker made like a homeless guy like eat glass for money
Yeah.
once, and it was just like
But
that's
the
so
bottle
crazy.
that Rutger breaks over his head is
Yeah.
one of your B&J bottles.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll always do that. We'll like still. I think Kareem's done a couple movies since Hobo where he's just kind of took that label my brother made and always put it in the background.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
The Lisa Loki song.
Mm-hmm.
How and why that ended up being the end credits?
Yeah, our end credit song is "Run With Us" by Lisa Lougheed, which is also the Raccoons cartoon theme song.
Okay, because it's so 80s.
Yeah, and I want like where the movie kind of ends on this down note. I still wanted people to leave the theater like, you know, pumped up and excited, and so I felt like I needed something to kind of capture the whole spirit of the movie. Where I felt like Hobo is like, it's very much like this crazy cartoon. It's like when we made the movie, we were always referring to like the 13-year-old like kid inside us, and like whenever we were coming up against like a creative decision we had to quickly make, it was like, all right, would that kid inside us dig it? And if it would, it was like, all right, let's go for it. So, and also like that raccoon, you know, the raccoon show is Canadian, and so I felt like it just kind of captured that like the spirit of the movie, and even the sound of it. It's got this like rock and 80s vibe to it, and it's kind of haunting too. Like I remember that song for some reason, like the raccoons kind of like, it was a cool like kids like cartoon that, you know, it dealt with like, you know, corporation issues, environmental issues, things that you would think might be like over kids' heads, but you know, it treated its audience like very respectfully, and so I don't know. I just felt like it just kind of like just captured the spirit of what we were doing.
Yeah, because there's a weird tone to the movie because there's moments where it's very intense, but it's funny at the same time. Like you have to laugh,
Yeah.
but you kind of feel bad,
Yeah.
especially with the school bus scene.
Yeah.
'Cause that is, we were talking about killing kids earlier. I don't think I've ever seen as audacious as that.
Yeah, we probably could have filmed the movie years ago if it weren't for that scene. Like that scene was definitely like our biggest like roadblock. Like after we, you know, showed people the script, that was always like the first question. Like, you know, what's the deal with this scene where the bad guys walk on a school bus full of children with a flamethrower, blasting Disco Inferno. But we hung on to it. Like it was a scene like we loved that scene, and thankfully, like Neve Fitchman, our producer from here, that was like his favorite scene. Like it still is like his favorite scene. And this is a guy who's like made, you know, The Red Violin and Passchendaele, you know, these films that are totally on the other spectrum, like of Hobo, completely opposite. And that's like his favorite scene in the movie, and he always fought for that scene. And thank God he did.
Yeah, but that wasn't easy to film either, was it?
Actually, we had to shoot. That was the first scene we shot. Well, no, it was on the first day that we shot. We scheduled it to shoot it on the first day so that we could get it in the can and no one could stop us after that. And that was actually, I think, Neve's idea was to do that. It's just like, let's just shoot it so no one can like come back and say, you know, cut that scene. But we didn't have much time to shoot it. I think we had like 2 hours or something to shoot that scene. So, you know, we just tried our best to like keep the kids, you know, super excited and having fun and not make it scary for them. And then the crazy part about it was we didn't know how the flamethrower would react inside a school bus. And so Greg Smith, like he thought coming to set that we were just going to CG this flame. I was like, no, man, we got an actual flamethrower for you. And so obviously we take the kids out, and he like fires off the flamethrower inside. And what had happened is it just turned the bus like into this oven instantly, and the ceilings just went like, oof. And Nick, who played Ivan, who was taller, standing at the back, the heat just went up along the, up on the ceiling of the school bus, and it like caught his hair on fire.
Yeah.
So all the edges of his hair were all like fried. But after that take, it was like you could see Greg's face, and he was just terrified. And after he's like done, he's like, all right, are we good? I was like, no, man, you look scared as fuck. Like, you gotta look like a mean motherfucker doing that. And
You gotta do it again.
yeah, and so he had to do it, like, I think I made him do it like 7 more times.
Yes, sir.
Just going back to the sewer lid scene, I was wondering how you got Rob, Ricky,
Yeah.
involved. Was that like a local connect thing? Or?
Yeah, because Rob Cotterill, like my producer, like he AD'd on Trailer Park Boys for years, and I've worked on the show a couple times too, and I've met Rob Wells, and he was always just down. Like he always told us, like if you guys got like a film and you need somebody, let us know. And so we came to him with it, and he instantly just said yes and jumped on.
Any of the other boys wanted to join in?
I'm not too sure. I don't know. I haven't really talked to them about it. I definitely like to work with them at some point.
So you had thought of him for that part, or was that just a?
No, we did, because we knew we kind of like we would probably have access to him. So like writing the script, we even kind of thought, this is going to be Rob Wells.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah.
Yes.
Did you receive a lot of negative backlash about the movie or about the school bus scene in general?
Not as much as I hoped. I thought we were going to piss a lot of people off, and that it was going to be like, cause a little shitstorm. But most people seem to get it, and they're going to go see a movie called Hobo with a Shotgun. You should know like what you're kind of getting yourself into. And so most people got it. Obviously there were people, like I got messages from people who were like, I think you took it too far with the school bus scene. And I totally respect that. It's definitely not a scene for everyone. But, I dig it.
Well, somebody's got to do it. Anybody else? Okay, I wanted to go back to some more of the references I picked out. That when the hobo starts going on his rampage, and you have the little scenes of him shooting like the Santa child molester, and you get the newspaper headline.
Yeah.
The scene in the basement with the chicks
Yeah.
that scene is really weird.
Yeah. It's weird because like that scene, I always hated it in the script because like we didn't really, I don't know, it was really loose in the script. Like what we did like is totally different than what was in the script. And we basically just like improvised that scene. Like it was just basically like in the script it was like, the hobo runs into, like he confronts a couple pimps like in this lair or whatever and blows them away. Whereas like on the day, we just like had a lot of fun with it and just got inspired to just like kind of like improvise some stuff.
Well, yeah, it was a tool with the eye holes.
Yeah, that was.
It looks like a Batman mask.
Yeah, it was cool. Like I remember we were setting up and I think Sarah Dunsworth like came up to me because she was doing her costumes. She was like, "Rutger's got this idea where he wants to cut holes into his into his toque and wear like a mask." And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Well, let's see it. And so he came out and he showed me it and what he was going to do with it. And I was just like, that's so creepy. That's really cool. And so like, and then a lot of like the dialogue that he has there is like all improvised. He always wanted to say hallelujah and then blow someone away. He kept doing that like during the shoot. Like he would like, some takes he would just like, after a little bit he would say hallelujah and then he'd shoot someone and he'd be like, this doesn't really work. He's like, okay. And then we'd do what we were doing. And then I remember like we were doing that scene and I was like, Rutger, I think this is the time for you to say hallelujah. And he's like, yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, he loved that.
Yeah, okay, so then Slick goes on the TV show and, gets the contest. And the cops roll out, start killing the homeless people, and the original hobo, Dave Brunt, makes his cameo.
Yeah.
His first, because he's in there twice.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's at the end.
Yeah, it's at the end. So they go on the, killing spree, that whole section, 1990, Bronx.
Like Bronx Warriors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I got
film.
that whole, Italian post-apocalyptic vibe.
I love like Italian, like all those like Italian like rips on like the Warriors and the Road Warrior, like all those like crazy like Warriors of the Wasteland.
Yeah.
I love those films and like Raiders of Atlantis. Have you ever seen Raiders of Atlantis?
Yeah, I think about that.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty amazing. But yeah, I love those films and in some way like that. Those films were definitely like Bronx Warriors is one of those movies I had on the reel as well too. But I don't know, in some ways Hobo like kind of feels like it's in that world. It's definitely in that like that Italian like post-apocalyptic rips that they did.
Yeah, well, certainly all your sets have that look. Now, how much of that did you have to dress, and how much of that was just the way it actually is?
I actually like growing up and like and then thinking about the movie, like I thought like our town was a lot more like graffiti, like just riddled with graffiti, but it seemed like I guess in the last like 2 years, yeah, like
stuff.
I think in the last 2 years the city's done like probably like a really good job of like cleaning up a lot of the graffiti. So it was actually hard to find places with like that grungy look. But we actually found like this abandoned like a sale asylum that we shot. That whole ending scene is shot there.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff like of him walking through streets and stuff is also behind that abandoned sale asylum, which is. It's really cool. It kind of looks like this little like Bronx town. I don't know. It's really hard to
Yeah,
explain.
there's even like the Escape from New York type music.
Yeah, for sure. But we also like our art director did a great job of just bringing like buckets of garbage to set for us to throw around. He also would bring like all these boxes of washable spray paint. So it was, the best thing was to show up on set in the morning and like everyone would just grab a can of spray paint and just start spray painting whatever the hell they wanted. And it was just kind of a great way to kind of start the day off with getting some creative energy out. And so people got really creative like with the like graffiti as we went on. And so the movie is like a constant discovery of really like profane like graffiti in the background.
Perhaps I need to look at it.
I was wondering, have any new doors opened up for you from doing Hobo and what you got planned next?
Yeah, there's definitely like I've definitely had some interesting projects like put towards me. I'm very picky. Like I've turned down some things that maybe later on in life I'll regret, like some remakes and stuff. But I've gotta have my heart into it, and I've gotta be like, when I made Hobo, I was ready to die to make that movie. Like if I was gonna get, like I would have took a bullet to make the film, and I've got to feel that way, I think, whenever I make a movie. And so we're working on, I can't really say what it is we're working on. Like we just finished a short film as part of this project called the ABCs of Death, which is 26 filmmakers around the world who have been giving a letter from the alphabet. And we had to create a short film that had a death associated with that letter.
What letter did you get?
Can't say yet.
Oh. Okay.
And then we just finished writing a first draft of a script that I can't say what it is either, but I think there's some fans of Hobo, like some characters in Hobo that people would, I think, hopefully be really excited to see a film expanded on them. And then I'm also in talks of another like a horror film project that we'll hopefully do in the fall.
Yeah, so you're getting outside offers too, not
Yeah.
just coming up with things yourself.
Yeah.
That's cool. So it did open doors.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to movie to remake, like your own choice, and they were like, "What's the money make its day? What would you want to make, like remake?"
It's a hard question because there's sometimes remakes can really work, and so I think it's like you gotta take an idea that might it might not have been executed as to its full potential that it could have been, like something like Psychomania. Like I love that film and I love the idea of that film, but it doesn't really quite deliver on the premise. Like when you pitch that movie to someone, you kind of like build all these images up in your head, and then when you see the movie, it doesn't quite live up to those images. But it's still an awesome movie. And it's got.
Have you told feedback this?
No.
Okay, don't.
Well, no, actually, no, I have. We have talked about this because I do love that film. Like I love it, and it's one of my favorite soundtracks. But I do feel like I could do something really fun with that movie now. It's has anyone seen Psychomania here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like this biker gang that like discover a graveyard where if one of them died, like their gang leader dies, they bury him in the graveyard with his motorbike, and then the next day they show up and they start hearing his engine revving underneath the earth, and then he just comes blasting out of his grave on a motorbike. And what's that?
Like a meatloaf album.
Yeah. And then they're like, all right, if we kill ourselves, we can like come back as like the undead were invincible. So there's this amazing montage where they come up with really crazy ways to kill themselves. Like there's a guy like walking with a bunch of chains and like bricks, and he like walks over to a lake and he just kind of throws himself into the lake. It's a really good idea. But when they come back from the dead, they just look the same as they did like when they died. And so I don't really think it like delivers on that like, you know, undead biker gang. But it is a good
So
movie.
you're saying it needs zombies?
I guess so, kind of, yeah.
Well, it just make it look.
I picture them kind of like, you guys ever read the comic The Nail? It was like a Rob Zombie, Steve Niles comic. It was like about an undead biker gang. They did an amazing job. Nat Jones did the artwork in it, and they just look amazing. Another movie I would like to remake, it's not really horror related, but it's out of Quebec, called La Guerre de Tuque. It's also called The Dog Who Stopped the War. I don't know, has anyone here seen that? But it's about like kids like who decide to like play war, and they split off in two teams on Christmas break, and one team builds this amazing snow fort on top of this hill, and all the kids get like pots and pans for armor, and they build like all these like crazy weapons to fight with, and they have this epic snowball fight that's so awesome. And I think a movie like that could really work today, like a movie that could maybe get kids like away from their computers for a little bit, get them outside, get them to scrape their elbows and knees a little bit, you know, get them using their imaginations outside. And so I'd love to do that. That's one of my dreams too. I'd love to make a movie like Monster Squad that just like makes you want to go out in your backyard and build a tree fort and build catapults and stuff. I want to make the ultimate tree fort movie someday. That'd be so awesome.
Okay, we had a question here.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, you had won the competition and everything just started rolling. You got Rutger and everything. Was there any point in like the middle of filming where you just stopped and you're like, holy shit, this is actually happening?
Yeah, I did have that moment. It was on the last day of shooting, and it was because honestly, like, making a movie, like making a feature film, like it's such a whirlwind. It's so crazy. Like I don't even remember myself, like who that person was that was making that movie, because it's a crazy experience. I think I was averaging like 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night, and there was just so much work to do, and it was just you're constantly being like barraged with questions. And, you know, you got to stay focused and stay confident, and you know, be a team leader. And it was the last day of shooting. We were shooting the opening train sequence, and we only needed a couple people, so there was like 8 of us, and a lot of them were my good buddies, and we had a train to ourselves. The conductor even allowed Rutger to drive the train, and we were just hanging out on this train filming, and it was a beautiful day. The sun was starting to set, and I'm just watching like Kareem film Rutger, and I see all my buddies like hanging out in this boxcar, and it was like the first time we were filming where I got to kind of just like go like, you know, just kind of like relax a little bit and just, you know, take it in. And I was just like, holy shit, like what the hell happened? It felt like I just like woke up. And it was just like, oh my God, we're filming a movie with Rutger Hauer? We're gonna get a Rutger Hauer movie? Like, this is crazy. Like, what the hell happened this past couple of years?
Yeah,
and so it was,
how long was principal photography?
we shot for 24 days.
Okay. That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Like, it's definitely, you know, you always wish you had, like, you know, 20 more days to shoot the film. But whereas we had, like, so many gags and stunts, like, every day there was a crazy gore gag or a crazy stunt. And those things take a lot of time to, like, set up and, you know, get them right. And they always take multiple takes. And so it was a crazy time. And we were, like, shooting an average of, like, 45 setups a day, which is pretty insane, where like a normal like feature would usually maybe bang off like 15 to like 20 setups.
Yeah, actually my favorite gore gag was the cardboard box getting squashed.
Yeah, that was amazing.
But that was just a pickup shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, we shot our 24 days, and then we were like, okay, we need a couple days where we can just go out with our friends with the Canon T2i and just roll on some crazy shit. And so we just came up with a couple like scenarios and a couple gags that we wanted to do on our own. And one of them was this moment where a homeless guy runs into a cardboard box, and there's an excavator, one of those things with a big arm that can like dig up stuff. And so we filled this box up with a couple buckets of blood and garbage bags full of blood. And we pretty much had one take to do it. And I got my brother to operate this excavator, and he stomped down on the box, and the blood shot out. Like, if you were standing within like 20 feet from this thing, you got soaked in blood. And it just like hit the cameras with this wave. It's actually on the making of doc. You can see like, you know, our reaction to it after. And it was just like, it was probably like my favorite moment of making the film. Because like, we just like, were so excited. We all just like ran at each other and hugged each other. It was like we scored like the game-winning touchdown. It was like the best feeling in the world.
All right, that's it. We got to wrap it up.
So guys, if you want to chat with Jason, we're going to go over to the Rue Morgue booth by the bottom of the escalators. He's going to sign stuff for free. There'll be Hobo with a Shotgun issues of Rue Morgue for sale if you want to buy them, and DVDs and stuff like that. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.